So during this last part of the information session, after now we have heard a lot of details on the contents of the changes to Part 21. We would now like to inform you what are the timelines. When do these new points in Part 21 apply? I would like to give you an overall picture on the timeline that is applied. Basically a rule of thumb, 2 dates that you need to remember. You will see that certain points already apply immediately and some will have a transition period. Those ones which are excluded from the immediate applicability, which fall in the transition period, we list them specifically on the slides so that you have an exact overview. And then on the two bigger changes in Part 21, on the new LOI concept, and on the changes to 21A263, the privileges for the design organizations, we have a bit more detailed overview on the applicability date and what we expect you to do and what the agency is going to do in the next months. Starting with the overall timeline, the basic rule in this amending regulation is that it will become applicable on the 23rd of March 2020. That's the main date that you have to keep in mind. There's a transition period between the entry into force in June this year up until March next year, so that the agency and you can prepare for these new rules. There are two exceptions to that. All the provisions that you've seen which are related to environmental protection, so the Cape 10 rules, and all the changes to 21A263, the privileges, they are already applicable today. They became applicable immediately with the entry into force of the regulation. So for the points that are not environmental protection and not privilege related, the reference date is March next year, and from now on until March 2020, you are going to apply Part 21, Regulation 748, as you are used to do it, the version that you know since years, as last amended in 2016 by Regulation 5/2016. So I think it's important for you to see exactly the points which are already applicable today, the ones which are excluded from the transition period. On the next 3 slides, for your reference, we have listed all of them, and these are the ones related to environmental protection and the new privilege. In the cover regulation, in Article 9, Paragraph 4, there are new exemptions from the environmental protection requirements. And then you'll see that certain points in Section A and Section B of Part 21 have changed, partially to revert them in relation to the new environmental protection requirements, for example 21A31 or A91, and some are amended in order to include the provisions, the new requirements on CO2 from Annex 3 of Chapter 3 of Annex 16. For example, 21A41 or A130. On this slide, you'll see similar concepts up until the last row on this slide, either related to the introduction of the CO2 requirements or rewordings necessary and related to the changes in ICAO Annex 16. And the last point that you see here on the slide is the one related to the new privilege, or to the privileges in general. All the changes in 21A263, not only the ones related to the new privilege for major changes, major repairs and STCs, but all the changes that you see in 21A263 are already applicable since June 2019. And on Section B, 2 provisions are affected, both related to the environmental protection requirements. So 21B85 and B326 are already applicable today. For level of involvement, we have prepared a small chart to visualize a little bit the applicability. So the regulation was published in June 2019. There were 20 days until it entered into force, 23rd of June 2019. And for level of involvement, the regulation includes a transition period of 9 months as of the entry into force. So the applicability date is the 23rd of March 2020. As you can see here in the light blue color, the 9 months transition period is foreseen to allow you as organizations to prepare yourself, to adapt your procedures, and to apply with the agency for a significant change to your design assurance system. And for the agency to prepare ourselves for your applications and also to approve then the changes to the design assurance system. And as of the 23rd of March 2020, the new LOI concept becomes mandatory. So what does it mean in practice when you are preparing for your significant change to the design assurance system? I think what is most important is that you need to give yourself time to prepare yourself, to apply on time, but also considering that the agency needs to investigate your application and to approve the significant change to the design assurance system. And all of that has to happen before the 23rd of March 2020. So you should submit your application so in time that the agency can approve it. In case your significant change to the design assurance system is not approved by the agency on the 23rd of March 2020, you will receive a level 2 finding. So you should not submit your application on the 20th of March 2020. That will certainly not be enough for us to make the assessment on your application. What you'll see here on the bottom of the slide is that for those companies which have participated in the voluntary compliance in the pilot project phase for level of involvement, those companies are already applying level of involvement today, and those ones can continue to voluntarily comply with level of involvement even before they have submitted formally the application for the change to the design assurance system. But although these companies need to submit the application before March next year, and we have to finalize the investigation and issue the approval before the 23rd of March.
I know, and I would fully accept if you say, okay, you did it, but it's not worth for me, but I don't want to have two different CPs,
Okay.
and I would like to train my CVEs to do the risk analysis as soon as possible.
I understand what you're saying, but it is not what we would encourage. Yeah, we would encourage that you only use the concept as agreed and as approved by us at the end of the investigation process.
You can do it hidden, separate
Yes,
document,
of course, you start thinking about it today.
or in the certification
or-
program, as long as it's in compliance with your existing DOA handbook. I think that's the limit that we can put.
Exactly. We made an exception for those companies doing voluntary compliance. We were very flexible in the way, because we also had regular meetings with them. We followed it every step of the way on for those DOAs not to work fully in compliance with their procedures, because we were there all the way. But now for the standard inclusion of LOI into the procedures, we want to go the normal route, which is Form 82 application. Don't use it until approval.
I think the best what you can do is contact as soon as possible your DOA team leader about the concept, the process you have. The time is limited anyway, and then it should be soon that you get the okay from your DOA team leader. This procedure is as it should be, as it's compliant with Part-21, and then you can introduce it and train your people.
Yes,
Good
make the time as
practical
short
process.
as possible.
Yeah.
We are not having a lot of time anyway, so it's short already. So it may be even something that will not happen.
Okay, just a small point of terminology. We've talked about CDIs and CDAs. Is, for the sake of consistency, is there a preference which term we use?
What is a CDA?
Yes.
Compliance demonstration activities. CDIs.
Okay.
Okay, we never use it as an acronym. Yeah, a compliance demonstration item includes data and activities.
New abbreviation, we don't have enough yet.
We didn't have enough.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I have a question. What happened when I submitted application, like for example, a couple months ago? The end of the project I have scheduled like maybe June on the next year. I already agreed the CP with the my PCM and with the experts. And what happened after 23rd of March? If I have already CP without this CDI and the risk assessment?
You.
Yeah, thank you for this very good question. The point is, we have to be practical. There is a legal gray area, agreed. However, if the CERT program is already accepted by EASA without the risk assessment, without CDIs, we will approve it as it is, since we have accepted the CERT program already. As soon as you have to adapt the certification program anyway, for whatever reason, in between, and now you have the procedure approved by our EASA DOA team leader, then you should implement the new concept.
About the approval of the certification program, do EASA define internally who has to give this approval? Because it happens sometimes that we get just single comments from the single experts, or sometimes we get an email from the PCM. So has EASA defined a focal point for this activity?
Yes, it's the PCM. By the way, nobody approves the certification program, but it's accepted, and it shall be accepted by the PCM. So it might be that you're in contact with the expert as well, because the PCM relies on a huge extent on the expert side. So are the requirements all complete? If I'm not, as a PCM, not the expert in this area, I rely on my expert. If he's satisfied, I'm satisfied for this perspective. Finally, the PCM will provide the acceptance of the certification program.
Okay, then let's have a look into the same story for the new privileges. And here we're talking especially the points on the new major change, major repair and STC privilege. Same story was published 3rd of June, entered into force 23rd of June this year, and that's now the difference, also became applicable on the 23rd of June. This is one of the two exceptions. Since 23rd of June, you have the possibility to apply at the EASA for the new privileges. So that means that you can submit your significant change approval any moment since June as of today. Of course, we again need a bit of time to assess your application and then change your terms of approval, so to issue your certificate, and as of that moment you can use the privilege. So the fact that it entered into force already in June doesn't mean that you automatically have a privilege. You need to apply for it, and as of the moment of the change of your TOAs, you can use the privilege. So important point here is that the transition period of 9 months does not apply. Do you have any question on that? A little bit easier transition, applicability period? Yes.
It's more about not the new privileges, but the changed privileges, so what we were talking about for the aircraft flight manual, for example, it's this still valid also for the deleted privileges? So as soon as we are applying for the next significant change, we will have also the new terms of approval with the changed privileges according to the EASA changes?
Yes.
Yes, so we take any opportunity of an amendment of the terms of approval to update to the latest format, which includes, or does not include anymore, the deleted privileges. And of course, the new privilege won't be on your terms of approval until a successful application. Yeah.
And we can use the privileges until the stage, because it's not deleted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have to work sensibly in this case. It was not anticipated that it would look like this, but 263 in its entirety became applicable in the new format on the 23rd of June, which is in the past. We still have, most of you, if not all of you, have terms of approval that do not reflect that. So we just need to transition properly and accordingly. Again, maybe we've stated this before, but contact your DOA team leader, be on the same page. Yeah.
This may be a good point before we continue with the question. Those of you who carefully read the amendments, they realize that 263 is applicable already, but 265 is not, will only become applicable in March next year. So when we talked about the statement that we've deleted as a privilege, but which is now becoming an obligation, it's deleted as a privilege, and the obligation exists only as of next year. So same idea there, we are applying a sensible approach. Of course you can continue putting the statement, you should even do that, but then the obligation of course kicks only in on the 23rd of March. Then that's where you have to put the statement. You have any other question on the applicability? If that's not the case, then we are at the end of the material that we had prepared for you.